Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going to be having a look at some hidden OP junglers you really should be playing. On most of the best jungler tier lists, people always ask about X champion, Vanguard champion, this champion, that champion. You know what? Only some of them can be the best. However, a lot of them are just underplayed, underused, and people don't recognize when they're strong. And then it gets popularized through streamers or pro play, and then they get nerfed again. And please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing if you enjoy the content and want more. And also let me know what video topics you might want to see. But without further hesitation, let's begin. Now obviously thumbnails with a silhouette and question marks aren't always the most mysterious, but you would have noticed from my gameplay channel where I uploaded a Trundle gameplay that I said he was a hidden OP champion and then I would make this video. And he is, and I am. The thing is, why is he suddenly so strong, particularly against a lot of meta junglers? Well, he does remove AD against those melee attackers, like a Lee Sin. He does steal those tanky stats from the beefy boys and girls who don't deserve the stats, at least from his perspective. Think of something like Xin Zhao. He is probably the best jungler in the game at the moment, and Trundle is one of the leading counters along with Gwen, which gives him a huge amount of power in their meta because the junglers, even if they're not played that much, that counter the best meta-defining junglers are the ones that will have a huge success. But most importantly, he moves fast, he chumps hard, and he clobbers people with a pillar, or traps them against a wall, or does something that only Evelyn might enjoy. But the point is, Riot have been relentlessly buffing him this whole season. 11.2 gave him some AD ratio, some bonus attack speed. 11.5 gave him some cooldown buffs. 11.9 a slow increase to his ice pillar. And all of a sudden, with some Gore Drinker buffs and some Divine Sunderer buffs, you're looking at a very strong champion. And the reason I mention the Gore Drinker is obviously that's a melee AD focused kind of item, and he will match up well with Divine Sunderer into those particular champions. Yes, he can be kited by your kindreds, outplayed with your egos, Nocturne beats everyone, and Kayn, honestly I mentioned it, but Kayn does very well into Trundle as Ross, because you out-heal him, but you can beat him up early. The point more so is that your Udyr's, Rumbles, Graves, Dianas, Warwicks, Hekrims, Volibears, they all struggle statistically into Trundle. He can outstat you, he steals your stats that you buy or even have, and while you might want to do a 5 or 6 camp, Trundle doesn't have that luxury. Obviously, he can get the Tiamat to speed those up, much like a Warwick in that case. 4 camp, action, 4 camp, invades, 3 camp, invades. We saw that happen in the gameplay video, but you don't just have to go Divine Sunderer, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to max that Q into that W just to become that carry you want to be. If you want to go Frostfire Gauntlet and maybe max your Pillar of Ice, you can do that. It's very supportive, but at 62%, that slow is kind of obscene. Also, his Q slows them, so basically everybody is slowed, he can chase you down, and that Pillar is such a good fighting disruptor, just getting in the way, locking people away from their teammates, trapping them against walls, preventing escapes. And then for those runes, you can go Tenacity and Last Stand as well. You can afford to go perhaps something like a Celerity to have total map control. You can even go Revitalize if you wanted to. However, any bonus movement speed and of course approach velocity with his amount of slows just allows him to be everywhere all the time, disrupting all the time, and because he can handle himself, sustain, bite, remove stats from enemies, it just amplifies everything his team can do to the targets he's focusing, and of course he also has PTA, which does more damage as well. Basically, the ultimate team player who can also solo carry themselves. And yes, hidden OP champions don't always have the best matchups. That's why they don't exactly get picked up to the majority, and that's why their stats are slightly inflated. But I always believe with the right pathing, with the right savant level jungle tracking, with the right itemization and teamfight control, you can play any jungler into any matchup. He kind of replaces Poppy in that regard because Poppy was in this video last year, and she also is kind of strong herself. She can go the Sunfire, she can go into the Frostfire, she can go into the Divine Sunderer, but honestly, her performance ratio and matchups are just significantly worse than something like Trundle's at the moment, and so he's very deserving of his spot. Now next up we have Taliyah. She dominated the meta when they fixed her clearings back at the end of 2020. However, they didn't like that and kept nerfing it until she became irrelevant once again. However, with the final nerf in 11.3 where they again reduced the damage he does to monsters, they increased the movement speed to sort of compensate a little bit, allow her to get back around the map. However, she just couldn't keep up with your full clear meta, and when they did nerf the jungle experience, I made a video on my gameplay channel talking directly about how Taliyah and Xin would be really good in the meta. And while the latter obviously has, Taliyah really hasn't found her space because obviously Xin counters Taliyah. You can very easily avoid her W with a WE. She doesn't get the one-shot combo and it's basically centered around her timing your disengage to get the damage off. It's kind of tough. Also worth noting, and why I started with Trundle, is that Trundle is very good into her as well. But what suddenly helped her so much to get a win rate in a really good spot overall, despite having some really horrific matchups and some really great matchups. Luden's Tempest. Combined cost was just reduced and the total cost was reduced by 200 gold. That means that she gets her itemization sooner, that means she gets that passive sooner, which helps her with farming, helps her with wave clearing, and helps her with fighting. This means if things don't go exactly your way in the early game, maybe you try to do a 4-5 camp, maybe you try to do a 3 camp, you just try to get active, full clearing isn't really the meta anymore, but you just can't see those windows and you do get a few things going, you just don't have enough gold to complete your itemization. Now you do, you get that mythic sooner, which means even if things don't go perfectly, you can still be in the game. And honestly, for me as Zyra, I've been complaining the whole year from jungle or support that it takes so long to get that Liandry's or Luden's completed. I do go Night Harvester as well, and the build path just feels bad. This buff has gone a long way and really boosted Taliyah's win rate overall. Now all the things that make Taliyah a great jungler still exist. She's not obviously that great in pro play and whatnot, but in solo queue, she can get her job done with great pathing, with great movement near walls, with great ultimate usage, and of course that one-shot combo and Q chase down. She really is unrelenting when she has a lead. And she's really a beacon example of how subtle changes can absolutely bring a jungler back into the forefront. Faster clears? Great, now I can play the game and get onto the map. Better itemization? Great, I don't need 25 stack Magi and 15 kills to be able to buy a mythic. All of this combined with the Dark Harvest means that you can gank better, you can stack fast, you can get to that Final Fantasy earlier. And she really only has a few super negative win rates. The ones I already listed, something like Rammus and Olaf kind of come to mind. Evelyn's always good into Taliyah, but if you get ahead, you can do stuff. Kayn, you can win early, but overall he does end up dominating at the end. And basically, even the Nocturne and the Gwen she does well against. It's really based on the jungler. And then you have things like Zac, Rumble, Nidalee. She just does so well into them. The win rates are so skewed, it's hilarious. And even though she can be kind of difficult, and obviously you don't want to be locked in an AFK farming battle, if you know how to get into the map and play an omnivore jungler, get those objectives, you should have no issue scaling your harvest, getting your items, and carrying games. Now I do have a special 2 junglers I would like to mention at the end of the video, but before that, the core hidden OP choice, Karthus. Now let's just cut to the chase. Luden's Tempest got the cost reduction, so did Liandry's. What does Karthus like to build? Liandry's, because there's nothing better than pressing R and burning you while he's in base. The thing about him though is that obviously he's a farming jungler. Obviously he enjoyed the season 10, start of season 11 meta. And yes, the experience reduction benefits things like the Trundle, like the Taliyah. But Karthus was the one thing who thrived as a farming jungler in season 9. He was an absolute terror nightmare to deal with. He would farm his jungle, and with a 2-minute 30 spawn timer between the camps, he would take yours while you were ganking on the other side, get back to base, and do the same thing over and over again. He'd have such a big lead, you could do nothing about it. And obviously, he got nerfed for this multiple times, it didn't really do anything, and he always seems to crawl his way back into the meta. As recently as 11.6, he had that Q nerfed once again, which affects his clear, it affects his trading. I mean, he was a flex in 3 positions, and while again, he struggles against the Trundle, he struggles against the Echo and the Olaf. And Taliyah is ahead of him in this video because Taliyah also does well into him. Overall, with the Dark Harvest rune set, and yes, Last Stand is way better on him. Something about that passive, I think. He has no issue dealing with the rumbles, with the rack size. And here's another one. He's great into Graves, Diana, and Viego. Well, guess who's really popular in high elo? He coin flips a 50-50 win rate with the Kindred, Evelyn, and Kayn, which is great because they're popular as well. But with his 4 clears still being absolutely dominant, the 15-second added spawn timer over the course of, the first 10 to 15 minutes, yes, it denies him some experience, but people seem to forget the core reality of why Karthus is so damn good even in a ganking meta. Yes, there's more downtime between sequences, which means he can gank without his ultimate, but then he still has his ultimate, so if he ganks on one side of the map, and his ultimate is up and he doesn't need it, well, it's an added tool that's available. He can gank every lane while still farming, while still ganking without it. And because his rune set scales so well, and because he can get the Liandry sooner now, just to give you a bit more percentage damage sooner, as long as you play it right against the aggressive picks like your Trundles and Echoes, he is able to scale, solo objectives, camp lanes, rinse clear faster than everyone else, and yes, I said camp lane, because there's nothing easier than sequencing in one direction so quickly and just revisiting the lane before any other jungler can keep up. A champion that rewards you practicing those first routes. Get into the practice tool, make it perfection, get it as low as possible, and then just spend your downtime affecting the map in whatever way you can. So like Taliyah and Trundle, some different changes around the game that impacted them in a positive way. They handle some certain matchups very well. And again, if you need to play from behind, if you need to play as a losing jungler versus a stronger early game jungler, I have many videos on the topic, including one featuring Karthus from a few months ago. However, yes, those are 3 really strong junglers that are not played a lot and they should be. I have to give a nod to the Skarner and the Monkey. Both win rates have actually dipped just a little bit in this current patch. They were better earlier on when I was thinking about the concept of this video. Wukong is obviously better in the top lane, but with Divine Sunder and Gore Drinker as both options, I covered the rank 1 Korean Wukong main from the jungle, and that's what he plays, not top lane, and showed you how obscenely vicious he can be when you know the mechanics and limitations of the champion, when you have that gore drinker, and you understand how to turbo invade and turbo apply pressure. Skarner, on the other hand, is very much like Udyr. Unless they're really OP and disgusting, no one plays them, everyone forgets they exist. Except, unlike Udyr, Skarner always maintains a decent win rate. I mean, no one's picking it, no one's banning it, no one's thinking about it, but you want a Q-max farm? Do it. You want to E-max gank a lot? Do it. Yes, the nerf of chem tanks and his itemization kind of ruined him a little bit, but there are some Deadman's buffs coming in the next patch. Keep an eye out for that. His win rate will go up from it. You can still abuse a phase rush. And as a bonus point, if you are running into a lot of Trundles and you hate it, pick Skarner. He does very well into him. He also beats the Rumble, which is what we need in this day and age. But there you have it, some hidden OP jungle picks plus a few bonus choices for you. If you are hating the meta, finding it a little difficult to navigate, these choices not only will surprise factor the enemy junglers because they have no idea what you do, you also carry a lot of extreme solo carry potential in the Karthus and the Taliyah, or a lot of utility / solo carry potential with the Skarner, Wukong, and the Trundle. Yes, they don't have the best designs, no, they do not have the best skins, but ultimately you can win more, climb faster, and get a lot of LP. And that's what we want, yes? Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did. I will leave a link to all those relevant gameplay videos I mentioned in the description below. And I know your beards are hidden OP as well, so keep growing them long. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.